going on right now? Okay, welcome everyone. I don't know if that sounded messed up to you, but it sounded messed up to me. We got some crazy feedback here. What is happening? Give me a second here. Give me a second. Let's break that down. There we go. There we go. All right, I'm back in the saddle. Forgive me, but welcome everyone to the People's Cabana. Patriot propaganda has been put on pause, so I'm starting from scratch right now. I want to thank you all for coming on the show. And I have with me my friend and my brother, Andrew MacGillivray, the president of V4F, and we're going to bring him on right now. So boom, there we go. How you doing, Drew?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm good, man. How did that sound? For me, I had like a whole bunch of windows open and a whole bunch of stuff going on, and it sounded a little bit messed up. What was it sound like?
Yeah, it didn't. It said there was an error on my browser, so I didn't get to see the clip for whatever reason.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that. But anyways, this is what it is, man. So we're starting off this new project, and mine is going to be the People's Cabana. And so, Drew, I could introduce you, but I'll allow you to introduce yourself. Obviously, please tell the people who you are and what you're all about, man.
Hey, so thanks for having me. My name's Andrew MacGillivray. I go by Drew, and I'm the current president of Vets for Freedom, one of the founding members. And I served 12 years in the Canadian Armed Forces from 2009 to 2021. A bit of a boarding specialist, and yeah, I got out. I got medically released. I have a really bad back and a bad left knee from climbing up the sides of ships wearing 60 pounds of gear. So anyways, I got out, and yeah, I could have stayed on a bit longer, but I was sort of tired of all the woke struggle sessions and everything that happened with the mandates within the CAF. So I retired and supported the truckers there in Ottawa. And then from there, a bunch of us got together and formed the organization, and the organization's still doing well and growing strong.
Awesome, man. You brought up a couple points. Struggle sessions. Obviously, to be a soldier in the CAF back in the day, I don't know what it's like anymore. I got out myself in 2020. So the idea of struggle or sacrifice to me is different today than what it was then. But let people know what you mean by that, those struggle sessions, because I don't think a lot of people are tracking. We post memes and stuff, man pawns, and we try and educate people about what's going on. But I don't think, I mean, some people are tracking. Don't get me wrong. I know a lot of you, whoever's listening right now, you're tracking. But people in the background, or who are just casually observing this, are not tracking. So would you care to explain that in some greater detail?
Yeah, so what it is basically they put you into these anti-racist, communist-style struggle sessions in the CAF, where they basically tell you, white man bad, you're a colonizer, we're not on Canadian territory, we're on the unceded land of whatever Indigenous tribe from that area. And they just pound into your head that if you're not, it's mainly the anti-racism stuff, right? So the CAF doctrine and policy is, our friend Noah Charche at the Epoch Times put out a request to the CAF and said, hey, are you using critical race theory for the development of CAF doctrine and policy? And they said yes. So I was looking at some of the presentations that were being given to myself and the rest of the members at Canadian Forces Recruiting Center in Toronto, and their references are people like Kimberly Crenshaw and Ibrahim X. Kendi, who are just a bunch of cultural Marxist race grifting lunatics, and that's what our military is using as references for that sort of thing. So it's not what the CAF is about. And this is like, if you look at Twitter and you see our X, I guess, sorry, and you look at our top post that we have pinned there, it says, the CAF shouldn't be your experiment for how woke can we get. And, diversity is not strength in the CAF. Unity is strength in the CAF. And that's why we have uniforms. And so diversity of thought and people asking questions and that sort of thing, yes. But they're dividing everyone based on people's immutable characteristics. And that's ongoing, and it's getting worse. And I've talked to guys who've had to do 2-day anti-racism sessions through in the CAF, and they go there and they just being pounded into their head all this anti-white racism, which is just a bunch of nonsense.
What was the timeline for that you just described?
Yeah, so I was at a specialist unit, not special forces, a specialist unit. So it's the Maritime Tactical Operations Group. So it's similar to clearance divers, and that's their sort of primary job is, explosive ordnance disposal and diving, and then the boarding thing. It's just boarding operations. That's our primary thing. So it was a very high paced, high speed tactical unit. So this stuff never made its way down to a unit like that, right? Like our unit there was, you're getting trained by the JTF2 EREs. It's all adults there. It's all first names. Everyone knew that it was one strike and you're out. So we never had any, up until the time I left, we never had any sort of sexual assaults or rapes or anything like that. Like I would send in the monthly reports to what we call in the Navy fleet, which is, the Commodore and all the ships and all the units and that sort of thing. And it would just be nil every time. So, but anyways, it's when I got to, I left that unit, and it was mainly just because my father had almost died and hadn't been home in about 10 years. So I asked to get a bit of a break, and I got posted as a senior watch officer to 4 Div. So that's in Ontario. It's at Denison. And there was an Army setting, a couple Navy guys there, but predominantly Army with a sprinkle of Air Force. And it started there with GBA Plus when I was like, what? Like I remember having to do that GBA Plus course, which is just like you just fast forward through, and then you print off your certificate and just to show that you've done it. But then, I was looking at it was the G9 for one of the operations that they were conducting. So the 9 in the Continental Staffing System is CIMIC. So it's civil military cooperation. And the first sort of bit I got was they were doing like pronoun police teams. So at the unit, they were sent, whoever was part of the 9 shop, there'd be a pair of them walking around the exercise, making sure that people were using the proper pronouns. So that's what I was like, what? Like that's ridiculous. Like so stupid. So anyways, that's where I first got it. And then when I moved over to recruiting because one of my buddies there had to compulsory retirement. So I filled that position. And then it just came on, like the way we were hiring people, the way that, if you're a white male, you couldn't be put in. If you were like top-notch candidate, but white male, they wouldn't put you in. So they're discriminating against you there. And then probably in like 2018, 2019, that's when the struggle session started. And I remember just getting up there and being like, like, this is ridiculous. And they're like, no, women can do everything that men can do and this. And I'm like, no, they can't. I said, no, they can't. They can't do everything they can do, especially physically. And then it was given by this like woke PSP chick, which is personnel support programs. And then they had other government officials coming in and doing these struggle sessions. And I was like, this goes completely against the ethos of the CAF. So I eventually, when I was on my way out for the last one, I told them, I said, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not participating in this stuff. And I remember, because it was a Zoom call, I was told by a buddy who was attending, and he said that there was like a revolt, and the lady who was giving the presentation had to like leave the presentation early because everyone was disagreeing with the crap that she was trying to shove down our throats. So yeah, that's where I was exposed to it the most when I was in recruiting, and it's still going strong, unfortunately. And that's why the attrition, it's hard to say, but I think that's why the attrition rate is so high at 18.5%. And that was as of March of this year. And it was great. Just on a side note about the recruiting issue is, Bill Blair came out and he said, "Oh yeah, we only had lost 100 troops or whatever." And I talked to one of the reporters who's dealing with that, and I told him, I said, "That is a lie. He is lying right now. He's either lying knowingly or he's been given incorrect information, because we were fed some information about the MPC, which is Military Personnel Command briefing that had just happened a month before. And they said they were down at 57,000 troops and the numbers were going down even more. And sure enough, a couple days later, Bill Blair backtracked and said that no, he was incorrect, and those numbers that he gave were incorrect. So I've heard a whole bunch of numbers from a bunch of different people. I've heard 34,000 out of 68,500. I don't think those are accurate. The numbers that we were given were 57,000 out of 68. It should be a 68.5, and that's 57,000.
That's dude, that's a mouthful right there that you just explained, man. So for folks who don't know, the Chief of Military Personnel, they are responsible for intake, outtake, and everything in between, right? So everybody that gets recruited, everybody that gets released or retired. So I assume that when you're working at 4Div and you're basically being fed G9 stuff, CIMIC stuff, fed towards the interior to push out to the public, because as a recruiter, that's one of the definitions of civic military relations, right? So you want to get the people in. So you are being fed, or you have the numbers that are accurate as of that time, right? Regardless of whenever CMP puts out their final stuff for D&D, but you guys inside are tracking this trend, and you saw right away that Bill Blair was like you said, either full of shit or he was being fed bad information.
Yeah. So I know. So there's something called the SIP, the Strategic Intake Plan, which is they can push through 6,000 people through Saint Jean for basic training a year, and we haven't hit that number for a couple of years, and then just this past year, there was less than 4,000. I think it was like 3,800 out of 6,000 that they got. So way below what they should be. People just don't want to join anymore. And, I'm not in, but I'm, even though I was a Lieutenant Navy, so still a junior officer, I dealt with SJS, DNOP, a lot of L1s, a lot of, senior people in Ottawa, just for the nature of my job. I'm very well networked. I know a lot of people in the CAF. I get fed stuff all the time from guys who are 4 ringers, who I'm friends with, who I served with, or were like in my chain of command. And so we get a fairly steady stream of accurate information. So when something like this comes,
don't know, like what's a 4 ringer? Some folks don't know. Like what's a
ringer? So a 4 ringer So it's a senior officer there. It's a colonel in the Army and the Air Force, and then for the Navy, it's a captain Navy. So pretty senior guys who know what's going on. So we get fed information from 4 ringers right down to corporals. So we will try and put that out, because our goal here is to expose how ludicrous the CAF has become, and that it should be of concern to all Canadian citizens, because the CAF is what's used for all of our, not all, but a lot of our search and rescue capabilities, protecting Canadian interests both at home and abroad. And it's just being destroyed by our federal government. And that's not and I don't care what sort of, part of the spectrum you're on in the political realm and that sort of thing. No matter what, you want a strong, efficient, and very capable military for your country. I don't care if you're left, right, center, whatever. You want a strong military that's going to be able to defend your nation or conduct, search and rescue operations within our country.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, very well said. Right. It's actually it's a good point that you made, because it brings me to so many other questions. But one of them is you're not supposed to be political. You're supposed to be neutral. You're supposed to be there to defend the country. And now it seems so. I was on the Zach Schmidt, the Schmidt House podcast on Tuesday night, And this cat's amazing, by the way. If you haven't checked him out, check him out. Dude is very insightful. He's an excellent host, and he asks some very intelligent questions. And he was asking me stuff like, why do you think this is going on? And like, what is the reason that they are doing this type of stuff? And why is the military becoming so political? And I struggled to answer that question, because it's like how do you answer something like that in a minute or 2 minutes? But when you and I were in, it was a neutral place. I was actually very happy to be in a place where I didn't have to be political. I got to excel at my job. I got to excel at my skill set in my trade and move up the ranks as I saw fit based off of my merit. And that was a beautiful thing. Anybody espousing any type of political anything, it was like a faux pas. Like it just didn't happen. It did not happen. And now we're seeing it. So I'll just preface the next, basically your response to this is like, it used to be the military was a microcosm of society, but now they seem to be imposing society in it as justification as to why society should be what they're trying to engineer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, when I was in, Dan, you didn't have an opinion. That was it. You weren't online giving your opinion about this and politics and stuff like that. And that's why that sort of operation that we helped support there with that sassy sailor guy who came out of nowhere and just started tagging a bunch of like left-wing accounts of people who were still in, who were attacking Freedom People, attacking Tamara Lich, attacking the truckers, attacking Canadian citizens, giving their political opinion. And, when we sort of conversed with that guy and he sent us his report that he did and everything, it was very alarming, because the guy captured, I think it was like 18 or 20 guys who were still in, just giving their political opinion online. And it's like, it's interesting. Anonymous, because
or with their name and rank.
No, name, rank. There's all sorts of guys. A guy named Gillespie, who was like a captain intelligence officer. That guy was on there running his mouth, and they all got caught. Now, a bunch of them deleted their accounts, including that Gillespie idiot, and a couple other guys, because what they were. But the thing is that we got called. I personally got called by the military police in Ottawa because they were trying to find out who this guy was. So instead of focusing on going after the people the people breaking the rules, they were trying to get the whistleblower. And I was like, pound sand. I was like, you have no jurisdiction over, I'm not telling you anything. Yeah. So too bad. There's a little bit more of that story, but I won't get into it because there's some OPSEC stuff there. But I can guarantee you, if it was a guy in who was saying, Poilievre's the best or anything right wing or whatever, they would have had the MPs kicking down doors, just like they did for that officer cadet who spoke out early on. They came in, they took all of his electronics, went to his computer because he was, speaking out against the vaccine and that sort of thing. So that guy has no problem, kick down the doors and take him. But these left-wing people have been given, they're allowed to go on there and run their mouths online. And some of these guys I've worked with, and I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, man, so what I think it is that, if you're towing the Liberal Party line, you can break the rules. You can go in there and run your mouths. There's still guys on there running their mouths, sergeants but now a bunch of them did delete their accounts. So they did get their PP slapped, but there's still guys on there just spewing this woke garbage. And then, so, you and I have talked about this. My theory, and we have some more stuff coming on this, but my sort of end state theory about what's happening with the CAF is it's the managed decline of the CAF. And I said this with a Epoch Times article with Barbara Kay. I said it back in March of 2022. And what I think it is that they have purged the military of all sort of patriotic, I shouldn't say all, but people who are patriotic or standing against the stuff, those guys quit. So they make it so miserable for you, and it goes against your personal, values, that you get out. That's one of the reasons I got out and didn't do the retention, because I said, look, I can no longer recruit good young Canadian men and women into your woke military. I'm not doing it. So I think they do that. They got I know there's a bunch of people here who are part of our friends at who are part of the Valor Law lawsuit. So shout out to you guys. So anyone who wouldn't comply with stuff that was unjust, they got rid of them as well. And they're seeing a massive, like they're short 10 or 12,000 troops. And then you have the CDS turning around and promoting books that talk about right-wing extremism. And you just have to remember that when they say right-wing extremism, that's anyone to the right of Joseph Stalin. So anyone who disagrees with us on anything, you're far right. And so what I think they've done, then they open it up to permanent residents, and you get this new batch of troops in. So all the old guard, everyone who's patriotic and everything is gone. They take a hit for a couple of years with the numbers. They start recruiting woke people and permanent residents. And then the only thing that they're going to pound into these people's heads is all this anti-white, anti-racist, modernity, freaking cultural Marxist nonsense, which is basically say white man bad. And I believe down the road that's being done. So when the sort of patriotic rural people of this country start to resist or start to rise up, if that happens, that they're going to have a military who's going to have no problem cracking down on their own citizens. That's my theory, at least. I hope I'm wrong, but we'll see.
Well, it's a logical assumption to make, for folks who don't know. So now the regular force is allowing PR, so permanent residents, to apply. Whereas before that was only dedicated towards the primary reserve, if I remember correctly. So regular force, you had to be a citizen. Primary reserve, they would allow permanent residents, and that was the recruiting strategy at that time. But now it's opened up to regular force, and you're seeing the same thing in the United States right now, where they are allowing non-citizens, regulars, illegals, whatever you want to call them, to apply for military service and law enforcement. Now, any casual observer is like, okay, yeah, what's the big deal? But the big deal is if there is a something that happens, you now have people in positions of power with legal authority to apply force upon the citizens who aren't citizens. So just play a mind exercise with yourself for a moment and think about what the potential outcomes could be. It's not good to me. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like I said, I hope we're wrong, but this happened down in the United States. So as soon as Biden got into power, they ordered like attack pause on everything, so they could investigate all the soldiers in the entire. They were going through their social media posts to purge any sort of pro-Trump military guys. So the same thing's happening down there. Now we've sort of assembled a team. We got some good researchers and some ATIP folks and stuff like that. And we're going to.
Oh, I lost you there, Drew. Is that me or is that Drew?
Sorry, I cut out.
Yeah, you're back.
We got a good team together, and we're going to promote a 2-part documentary series about this right-wing extremism in the CAF narrative that they're pushing. We've got ATIPs going out, and we think it's going to be a really good production. But we might actually tie it down to what's happening in the United States, because we're close with big groups of American veterans down there, and the same thing's happening. So we might be able to do that. Hopefully it will come out sometime early next year, and it's going to expose the narrative that they're pushing. And it's funny when anti-hate calls me like a right-wing extremist. Is like, I grew up in the hood in Scarborough. Like my best friend is Guyanese. Like most of my friends are not white. So it's funny how they label a guy like me that. But when you joined, at least when my experience in the military, there was none of that. I saw them once where one drunk guy called one of my guys the N-word. Actually, they were both my guys. He got reprimanded. That's all I saw in my entire career. It was that one time where guys were drunk down in the junior ranks mess on ship. That was it. I'd never seen anything else. Not saying it's not there. I'm just saying that I haven't seen it. So I don't see it as a problem. Now they have 2 guys who were, pushing the white supremacy type thing, but 2 guys is what they have recorded out of over 90,000 troops. Now it's over in the past couple of years. So it's just a false narrative. They're doing it, and we're going to counter that with actual facts. And like another thing, I can't remember if I told you this, Alex, but we had a recruiting center, the recruiting center in Toronto was there. We had 3 incidents at the recruiting center, the new one, when I was there.
Okay.
And one was a left-wing Antifa chick with purple hair and pepper spray. And the other 2 were 2 Muslim dudes. And I had the altercation with one of the guys, and the other guy got caught in between the security doors when he was trying to do something stupid. So it's been 3 sort of left-wing attacks. There was nothing on it, never reported. I guarantee you, if it was a white dude or a white supremacist guy who had done anything that those people had done, then CBC would be down there just taking it and say, "Oh, this is the worst thing ever. White supremacy is the biggest threat to democracy," and all their other nonsense. But that wasn't the case. So,
yeah, it's interesting, how I mean, number one, the media that pushes narrative, that runs PSYOP, that helps to run 5GW upon our own citizens. You see that if you understand the kind of the evolution of the CAF and who is in power and what is going on globally, right? So like from 2001 to, let's say, 2015, it was war on terror, so recruiting center experiences were much different. You had the attack on Nathan Cirillo, you had the attack on Parliament Hill, blah, blah, blah. So there was a lot of this, there was a very different sentiment. And then all of a sudden it all shifted. GBA plus, I was subject to that as well. I remember the exact same thought process going through my head. And now, let's fast forward 10 minutes later, we're in 2023, and it's an inversion of everything that was before. Not to say that the one before was right, but it's like the pendulum just swings in maximum direction. But for the guys and gals that are in the forces, unity is the utmost. It's there's nothing more important than that. And at least during the war on terror time, there was no politics. Everyone, it didn't matter if you were white, black, whatever, we all got after it. And we did the job because we were actually going to potentially die and to kill people. Like, it was serious business. So there's nothing more important than that. And now it's very different, man.
It's also in the Liberal Party line, and there's someone I always reference. There's a really good guy out there called Andy Stump. He does the Cleared Hot podcast. That guy's helped me a ton in watching and learning from him. He's like he gives a lot of lessons and how people can transition back to civilian life. Anyways, great guy, great podcast. He's been on Joe Rogan, and one of his podcasts, he got asked, or he was telling a story about. He got asked, he was doing a leadership conference for a big company, and this lady got up and said, "Hey, do you think that the Navy SEALs are missing out on anything due to lack of diversity? Because there's no women in the Navy SEALs." And he said, his answer, I memorized it exactly word for word because it was so perfect. He said, "Well, I don't know." He goes, "Are we aiming for diversity, or are we aiming to achieve a standard? And that standard is dictated to us by what we're encountering on the battlefield, and the battlefield doesn't give a shit about diversity." And that's like the best answer you can have. I've led these boarding teams on actual boardings to other ships to take over the ships and look for human smuggling and drug smuggling and weapon smuggling. I've actually done it for real. I've had women on my team. I've had Persian guys on my team. I've had black guys. Like, no one cared. No one cared. We work out together. We train together. None of that was an issue. Like, it didn't even cross my mind until recently when I sort of got exposed to all this stuff. So I don't know. Like, it's dividing people in the military as well. And same with all this women stuff. And you mentioned GBA plus. So one of my best friends is still in the military. His wife was one of the people who was working on GBA plus. And she said, according to her, she said GBA plus was initially created so that when you're purchasing equipment, and whether it's clothing, is that you have to make sure that it's suitable for women as well. right? So that made sense to me, according to her. This is, again, just hearsay. I wasn't involved with this, whatever. But she goes, there has to be gender-based analysis done from the procurement side and the designing of materiel and uniforms and that sort of thing to make sure that women can function. That makes sense to me. If that's what it was for, that makes sense to me, right? Because certain things don't work well with women, or you have to adjust things for body types and that sort of thing. That makes sense. But she said it just evolved into this nightmare where it's just like an open book, and they just say, okay, it's for anything and anything women related. And so, anyways, who knows?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because the way it was sold to me when I was at CJOC at the time, so the Canadian Joint Operational Command, was I was working with J Engineer Intelligence. So I was working with the J2 shop, which is the Joint Intelligence shop. And they sold it to me in a sense because I hadn't done it either, right? I'm busy working. I'm like, what? I got to click through this. Like, I don't have time for this thing. What is this thing? You haven't even explained it to me, but it was mandatory, so I had to do it. The way it was sold to me was from an intelligence gathering perspective. That before we go into the next theater of operations, we need to make sure that we have male and female intelligence gatherers on site to be able to communicate with the maximum amount of the population as possible, right? So in Afghanistan, for example, it's all men, right? The population we were dealing with, fighting with, or communicating with were just men. Women were not to be seen. Like, we couldn't even search the women, right? So at vulnerable checkpoints, we couldn't search them because this was the Obama counterinsurgency phase. So having a man search a Muslim woman with NBC potentially lurking in the shadows is you can't do that shit. So at that time, the unit that I was with, the American unit, women were still not allowed in the combat arms. So we're like, well, what the fuck do we do? So, like, off the top of our head, the major was like, well, go grab the 2 cooks. So we went and grabbed 2 cooks, brought them with us in a convoy, went and did a VCP, and then we hauled these female cooks, Americans, to search female occupants. And so that was so that link that made sense to me, right? And I was like, okay, cool, yeah, I'll do click next. I got my certificate, and then off I go. And that's the last thought I gave it at that time. But it's that insidious little mind virus that gets implanted, and now it's become, we have tampons in government buildings and B&B facilities. Like,
oh my gosh, that was so, yeah. So when we go overseas, we have cultural advisors, right, who do that same thing. They do briefs, things you can do, things you can't do. We have our terps or our interpreters for different languages. You have 3 or 4 of them on there. Yeah. So, but the thing is like, well, when you guys were creating our FLS, so that's forward logistics support, you put a female logistics officer on there, and then you sent her into a bunch of Muslim countries thinking that she was going to be able to interact with the agents and all the people and the foreign things. All the Muslim dudes, they didn't even talk to her. Right. So it's like, why didn't you guys do GBA plus on that, saying that you shouldn't have sent a female lieutenant Navy in as our FLS because she couldn't do her job. So she had to speak to the sergeant traffic tech, who would then speak to the Muslim men because they refused to speak with her. So it's just a bunch of nonsense. Like the CAF, like there's some good units at the CAF and they do some good work and everything, but I think it's sort of been a joke for a while. Like since we got out of Afghanistan, it's peacetime, they purged, they got all the Afghan vets out, and now it's just a political tool, unfortunately. And I was happy that we sort of broke that story about the menstrual products, because it's just become this laughing stock in the CAF and on the world stage. And it's and people are like, oh, and people are like, oh, and it's not true, whatever. It's like, look, man, we don't just post anything like randomly. We check, we make sure it's from one of our connections on the inside, and it was true. Like, so people are like, oh no, it hasn't been at the units. Like, it will be by December 15th. It will be at all the units, because we just got another one from Denison, the picture from Denison today that showed the washrooms with men's products. And it's demoralizing. And I talked to this guy about it. He was like, it's demoralizing because, there's so much that we could be spending our time on and our money on that could help the troops and the people are still in, and they're wasting their time and effort on this nonsense. So yeah, anyways, it's pretty sad.
It's got to be demoralizing as excuse my language, fucking hell, because that shit's crazy. Like even my wife Megan, she's like, okay, like what, like as a woman going in, you know what I mean? Like, and now it's free for everyone. Not that it should be taxpayer funded for anyone, period. Excuse fun, but like now that men need it, okay, it's everywhere, right? So it's like this is the mind fuck that is upon us. Whether you think it is one or not, it is up to you to decide. But it is absolutely insane. And to quote Yuri Bezmenov, I think we are beyond the demoralization phase. We are now in the normalization phase.
Yep.
100%.
Shout out to Terry Campbell. He just popped in there. Hey, brother. He's the one who did that table, that V4F table that a friend of mine won in Ontario, the raffles. So shout out to Terry. He does some great woodwork. What
up, Terry? 07 to you. 07 to everyone in the chat, by the way. Thank you all so much. Whoever is paying attention and watching this, thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe or die. We're doing this not just for us, but for all of you. And our goal is to build community and all that jazz. And on that note, I'm just going to play this quick little banner here that I got. Yeah. Localism defeats globalism, man. Grow some food. Get after stuff. Okay. This is the way that we defeat this normalization phase that we're in beyond the demoralization, is that we got to take care of one another, talk about these things, but also support each other. So this is the only way forward, man, to mitigate this insanity. Sorry, Drew, keep going, man.
Yeah, well, I'll show so my shirt, the Do Not Comply shirt that we have there that I'm wearing. One of our guys in Central there, I think his name was Mark, and I'm sorry if I'm bad at names because I talked to so many guys and supporters and that sort of thing. But he brought up a really good point. He said, look, we have to, this whole do not comply, he goes, we need to evolve it to do not rely. So do not rely on the government. Do not rely on large corporations. Do not become on those entities and become more self-reliant and build that within your community. And I'm going to work on that and expand that into a write-up, because that was a great point brought up by Mark. And I was like, man, you're bang on, because, you know, this whole thing with the freedom movement, you know, I have my own personal opinions on the freedom movement. You know, it's filled. There's some people with some mental health issues. There's people who are in it for the money. People are in it for, you know, becoming famous and that sort of thing. And I remember chatting with someone. It's like, we need to evolve the freedom movement to the self-reliance movement. And that's why last November, we were like, okay, well, what can we do? And that's why we were really pushing the victory garden concept, the community building concept, the self-reliance concept. And not saying that we just invented that. Obviously, there's a ton of YouTube channels. There's all these big community groups out there already doing that. But that's what we need to focus on, is the whole food security aspect and that sort of thing. So I think that's good. We got some stuff coming with our organization. I don't know if we want to get into that now with the whole the TV aspect, but that's something we're going to focus on. Yeah. So one of the good things that's coming up from our organization is V4FTV. So what we're doing is we're getting veteran content creators who are either new, or are already established, to start running and doing shows on the V4F platforms. So, hey Al, I think that's our boy Al Houston. I think it's him from North Bay Beauty. That guy is a great guy. Shout out to you, brother. So what we're doing is like, so you know, you have the People's Cabana, so that's yours. I'm going to be doing a weekly show on Sunday afternoons called the Weekly Sit Rep, which is going to talk V4F issues, veteran issues. We're going to have the Hater of the Week. We're going to highlight a veteran-owned business every week. We're going to highlight a freedom-owned business every week. And then we have Jeff. So it's funny, with Jeff does his morning show, And then people are like, oh my God, Jeff said this about that. And he said he didn't like Polyev and I'm getting angry. And maybe that's our fault because it's like we didn't put out a disclaimer. Like Jeff has his own opinions on everything. We don't try and control it.
He's allowed to have those opinions.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's what,
so, yeah. And that's the thing is, so we're putting out this disclaimer, which says, hey, whatever the content might not necessarily reflect that of the organization, and the organization, what we say, might not reflect what the content creator says, right? It's all about having thought-provoking discussion and having constructive, sort of positive conversations about things, you know, because we get, Jeff does this thing who's extremely intelligent. I agree with him a lot of stuff. There's stuff I don't agree with him on. But then we take flack and it's like, well, hey, that's just Jeff's own show. It's just his own opinion, his own show. I watch it. I learn. He's a really smart guy. So Jeff's going to have his show, which is going to be his specifically. We got Mark Mankey, who does Tango.
Real quick, Jeff's been crushing it. Like Jeff has been doing that show Monday through Friday since the inception of V4F. So that's not a task, man. So shout out to Jeff Evelyn.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like there's things I disagree with him on, but that's fine. Like and we're not going to just turn our back, and because we had one member get upset with us because of something Jeff said, and I said, look, man, it's like if I just gave my personal opinion on every issue, and we had to have this group think on every issue, it would be like me and like two other guys in the organization if we all agreed on the same thing. That's not the point. We don't turn our backs and stuff because someone has an opinion. But anyway, so we got Mark Mankey coming, Tango Romeo podcast. We got our good brother Dave Morrow, Hard to Kill podcast, so he's on board. There's another really good guy, and his name, he does a YouTube channel called Krusty Canuck, and he does these 30-minute clips of John. So we're just talking with him right now. Hopefully he'll be on board. And then we got, I won't say the name of this one, but if this guy's on board, this Special Forces guy, he has a really good show, and we'd love to get him on board. So putting out sort of more content, and it's like, hey, you're a veteran, you're an awake guy or gal, and then we can focus on everything, health and wellness, fitness, which is what Dave's sort of specialty is, who's great. We got Mike and Pedro from Freedom Honey. They're going to be coming on board as well. So we got all these great content creators, and we eventually want to get it up to the point where you just have this one-stop shop where you can watch all these individual content creators. And if you don't like, White Wabbit Warrior on Twitter. So him and Speyer are wicked dudes. They're going to do a podcast themselves. They'll be on board. So we have all these great people, and it's all about getting the right sort of messaging out. It's definitely not anyone who's a bullshit veteran, because I hope those guys are watching right now. Those guys are just a bunch of spineless cowards.
Explain to people what a bullshit vet is.
Yeah, so it's just a term I came up with. So we have and I didn't even know about these guys until that sassy sailor guy exposed them to us. But there's like 50 or 60 Twitter accounts of like vets who are like completely left-wing, drinking the Kool-Aid, woke idiots. And their lives revolve around like our social media posts. And I was like, really? And it's like you go on there and they get in there and they're this, and they don't represent all veterans, and they're Trump supporters and they're traitors and all this. And it's so funny because so Bolsheviks, like the left-wing lunatics from in Russia, the Bolshevik Revolution. So these guys are so far left and they're so woke and they're such virtue signaling spineless weasels. That's why I just called them Bolshevetrans or Bolshevets for short, because when they've sent us emails and I've written emails back to them, and those guys, and I tell them all, I told them, and I said this on Twitter, is like, hey, open invitation for any of you guys to come on our show and speak publicly and defend your position. And it's been crickets. We put it out like 4 or 5 months ago. Not one of them has the spine to get on and talk to us. I said, email us, DM us on Twitter. And then the thing is, they just troll us on Twitter. And then it's like, okay, we're going to block you until you grow a spine and come and talk to us. Because that's all you do. You're just anonymous shit posters on there. and you're just running your mouths. And then when we confront you, say, okay, well, come defend your position publicly. They don't do it. So that's where the bullshit veterans came from.
And the invite is still open. You know, it's still open.
I'll have a civil conversation with anyone, just calmly, and so will Jeff. So will you. So will like a lot of our guys are good.
I'm genuinely fascinated in what makes people tick. Why do you do the things you do? Why are you interested in the things that you're interested in? And why do you advocate for what you advocate for? Which is, I think, this is really cool with this V4FTV hashtag V4FTV. We're going to get this trending. Is you know, so many veterans and so many patriots are like, I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, and y'all in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. There's this, there's a black pill. There's a floating anxiety that's going on, right? And I think from my perspective, there's a lack of morale, and when in fact we're surrounded by beautiful people, man, amazing patriots. There's kick-ass shit going on every day. It's just we're not very good at organizing. We're not very good. We're not loudmouths. We don't talk shit, and we just get after it, right? So this is why this is kind of cool. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for everyone watching this. I'm doing this for V4F. I'm doing this for all of the patriots that are looking for their tribe, looking for their community. This is the way that we can get after this, man. So it's awesome.
You're 100% right. And look, I say this all the time. Is look, like I'm retired. I do, have a raw dog food company that's going to be starting here. I'm going to be making a bunch of money doing that. I run a Mini X. I help. I, do all sorts of stuff in and around my community, and I don't have to be doing any of this stuff. I don't have to be doing V4F. I don't have to be getting on doing podcasts, doing our support fund. I don't look, my fob farm, which is a concept that me and a couple other guys came up with. We have 30 members. We're up here on 37.5 acres in Ontario. And, people come up on the weekends. We focus on food security, buildings, basically the three things that our group focus on: sustainability, resiliency, and community. So those are the three things that we work on. And there's a great group of guys. I could just be retired with my 4 dogs doing that in my community and not have to do any of this stuff. But I don't, and this is why I went to support the people in the at the trucker convoy, is because look, I don't care what people's medical status is. I really don't. If you want to take whatever your shots, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But I don't believe, or I didn't believe, and I still don't believe that there should be 2 classes of citizens in Canada. That was it. That's the only reason I went there. Is like, well, these people I don't think should be, cast to the side and be cast from society because they decided to make a personal medical decision. That's the only reason I went there, because I think generally Canadians are good people for the most part, and that's why I went and supported them. So that's why I'm doing this now, is because. And that's what V4F is. Like, we're a group of peaceful, patriotic veterans who are concerned about the direction our country is going. That's it. Like, we get so much stuff made up about us and sent to us. And like the one that was the other day, like our merchandise family who runs our merch shop, like the family that does it with their kids and everything, they decided to create a TikTok account, right? Because they're doing these little ads and stuff to sell merchandise. So they put that, and they put like a barcode on the thing, and then people started freaking out and calling us, "Oh, you guys work for the WEF and this," and like it's like, oh my gosh, it's like this nice family who are both vets who are doing this, and they wanted to do it just to create some. Yeah, the barcode. It's like, well, I guess you can't buy groceries. They have barcodes on every grocery out there, so. And so they get attacked, and then this one guy is like losing his mind. And then he starts making all these posts like, oh, V4F stole money from James Top and this, and I knew it was there. And like, it was ridiculous. It was funny, but it's like, listen, we are friends. A lot of us are friends with James. We talk to him on either a regular basis or semi-regular basis. we didn't steal anything from James. We've given over $10,000 to James and Canada Marches and all the work and all the support we did. And if we stole money from James, why would he have why would we be selling all of his excess Canada Marches gear? Like, but these people just make stuff up, and we get attacked all the time. And a lot of it's comedy. There's all sorts of guys out there, but it's sad is what it is. So we just take that, we brush it off, we keep going, trying to do the right thing. I'm not saying our organization's perfect, not saying we haven't made mistakes before. But the best one I got, I think it was maybe a month ago, a guy was like, yeah, man, you guys put together a group of guys and you attacked my campsite with fireworks. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, yeah, V4F, they came in a bus and a whole bunch of them. And I was like, dude, like, see, done anything like that. So people like to make up a bunch of stuff. And
well, that's the beauty of social media, right? It's a double-edged sword, man. So
yeah,
people will X, for example, right? It was much worse when it was Twitter, where like my account was banned. My account was actually I got nuked for pointing out that a law enforcement officer was pointing a carbine loaded potentially with a 30-round mag. Whether it was unsafe or not is up to debate, and he was stabbing someone with it. That's all I said, and then it got nuked. And of course I got some people to rally for me, and it got brought back. But that's the double-edged sword of social media, is that you can create a story, create a narrative to attack those you don't like, and then
they just make stuff up, and it's like constant. I get like threatening emails from guys like they're gonna kill me. It's like it's never ending. It's like it's just not going to have any effect on me. If you want to try and come on my property, and okay, you can try that. But there's a couple of questions I saw. So someone asked where I am. So I'm located in Haliburton County. So my farm's located in Haliburton County. We've talked about that a lot, that whole concept, and we might be doing a presentation on that for our membership as well as the public about sort of what the concept is. So basically what it is that when our farms FMC are fully mission capable, fully up and running, which is probably going to be about 2 to 3 years, we should be able to provide food for 300 to 400 families in our community at low cost. So it's almost like a not-for-profit farm or community-supported agriculture, and we're talking about year-round. So the more of these FOB farms that we can have, or community farms across the country, the better off our country will be, because we're going to be less reliant on the government, less reliant on the global supply chain, and we'll be able to do our own food. So I think we have about 9 or 10 properties slated for this sort of thing, and we just really want to build it up. And I know there's some other groups out there that are doing that. There's a great guy who's a friend of our organization, Curtis Stone. Used to be the urban farmer. Now he's off grid with Curtis Stone. Massive social media following, from the field.tv. The guy's amazing. He's awake. He's worked with our partners, Vaccine Choice Canada, Ted Kuntz and their crew. So highly recommend you check him out. There's all sorts of stuff. So we're going to be sharing all that. Like with these shows, we're going to have guys talk about hunting. We're going to have, mental health. We're going to have health and fitness. We're going to have homesteading. We have our intelligence and community briefing, which is about 4 hours long. But what I want to do is do a slide or 2 slides every show at my weekly show to talk to people, because it takes a lot for us, Daryl and I, to, find a date that works for us, and then drive down, find someone to take care of the dogs, the farm, to go and brief 60 people or 150 people. So we're going to transition that to online. And I got this beautiful whiteboard behind me, which we'll use like a good naval warfare officer. So we'll use that, and we're going to be trying to get out content, not content that helps people, right? Like, okay, because what I found, like this community group that myself and a couple other people started in my county, which is we do in-person meetings once a month. And then we have a Telegram group where we share and we talk, and people help each other out. A couple people went to help a farmer who was behind. So it's just really this community building thing. There just needed to be a bit of guidance, a little bit of leadership, and now like our group is doing very well. And we have monthly potlucks and we get-togethers and socials, and there's people coming over to my place for Christmas and that sort of thing. And so if we can build these strong, community groups across Canada, which if there's already a bunch of them, that's how we can counter this stuff. So I just
So what do you
for a whole bunch?
No, that's good, man. And this is kind of what I was getting into is so those who know V4F, the origin story of all of that. We kind of formed like Voltron at the trucker convoy. We assisted them. We provided morale. We provided logistic support, and all that jazz. So I don't think anybody needs to know about what that's all about. But so this is essentially what we do now. Okay, this is what we're trying to do. And so, Drew, do you want to tell people like how it is that we are evolving, and how are we going to what does V4F look like 5 years down the road?
Yeah, so we're we've been pulled in a bunch of different directions, from service dogs to medical cannabis to establishing detachments around the country like the Legion. And the thing is, it's a bit of a challenge for us because we're just volunteers. B, we know that the government's looking at us, and I'll just give you a perfect example. Is that in the second month of our existence, well, first of all, we got a political party tried to bribe us in April of 2022. And we're like, no, that's not how we operate. It doesn't work for us. I don't care how much money it is. So a political party tried to bribe us. They realized that we're not on board for that sort of thing. A month later, Israeli-backed, US-based government think tank called MEMRI, which is the Middle Eastern Media Research Institute, wrote some report on us calling us all a bunch of terrorists. Never reached out to us, never did. And so we're like, what the hell? Like, where did this come from? So obviously a political hit on our organization to tar and feather, patriotic veterans. And that we're like, whoa, like this is no joke. This is what they're trying to do. And in fact, we had so many members and so many people sort of applying to join, but then we get people join and then they're like, oh, now what? What do we do? And so it's like we're trying to give people guidance. We're trying to grow the organization. We have our brag sheet coming out at the end of the year. We've raised over $150,000 for people in need, so we're pretty good at that. None of us get any salaries. A lot of profit and stuff we make from our merchandise sales goes to people in need, right? And we send it out to people who have been treated poorly by the system. Like, for example, Lisa Robinson is a municipal counselor who, because she was pushing back against the woke garbage, they docked her like 3 months of her pay. That's ridiculous. So we helped her out with some money to try, because she's a single mom, right? Who has a kid. I don't know how many kids she has, but so we tried to do all this stuff to try and help those people. So with V4F, we talked to one of our friends who's a lawyer today. They're going to help us with corporate governance and get our books up to speed. So we have our financial stuff for accounting details, which are taken care of, and then the corporate governance. So where I see it, and this isn't fully decided yet, is we will have a paying membership. So we open up the corporation to get a class of members. So you pay, like, if you're a vet, you pay $10 a year, and you vote on whatever sort of initiatives we're doing for that year, where that money goes. Sort of like how we run a mess in the military. So a mess is like based on your ranks. It's either officers mess or chiefs and petty officers, or a master seaman and below, or whatever the Army equivalent is that. And then basically that will get you in, and then you can start to pay. Now, if we have 1,000 paying members, that's $10,000. That pays to run the organization for a year. so we can decide what we want to do with that money. So one of the things we do with the money we make is we run a server. So on that server, we host a bunch of web pages. If you're a veteran and want your web page hosted for free for a business or whatever, we will do that. We're already doing it for a couple things or a couple companies where guys, so we try to do that. So we're going to try and do, veteran support stuff the best that we can. The whole sort of mantra is we can't take government money. It's by veterans for veterans, and we'll try and help the veteran community. And then I think eventually with the growth that we're going at is that if we get big enough, we will become a bit of a soft lobby, right? So if we have 5 or 10 or 15 or 20,000 vets who we can represent and we have voting system, then we can start to lean on the government for veteran issues. Because I think in a couple of years, I can't think of any other really big veteran membership organizations out there. I know there's a bunch of motorcycle clubs and that sort of thing, but I think we'll probably be the biggest in a couple of years if we aren't already. I'm not sure. And then we can work on that sort of soft lobby veteran issues. But that's down the road. Maybe that happens. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. So
yeah, and that's important to know, because like people joining up or people who are a part of it or who are curious are like, well, what's it all about? What's it look like 5 years down the road? And that's a beautiful thing. Like people don't. Some people forget that we're only a year and a half years old. We're brand new. And it started. So let's go back to how it started. Right, it started because many citizens in this country felt abandoned by the government, and veterans specifically. It's our friend Chuck Borboel on Twitter who said it. Yeah, and he was like, dude, if any organization should have stepped up to this and would have been successful at doing so, would have been the Legion. If they had stepped up, they would have gotten away with it. Like, it wouldn't have worked, but they would have gotten away with it because of the principles of what they used to stand for. And now I'm not shitting on the Legion as a whole, but for me personally, it failed many of us, and so we need more organizations like Vets for Freedom to step up and fill in the gaps of where shit is lacking. And I think y'all know where I'm going with that. Yeah,
and yeah, Chuck, I learned a lot from that guy. Our brother there, Mike, who hosts the Quarterly Coffee Twitter space, really good. Learned a lot from that. Really enjoy those conversations, and that's other things we're gonna do with V4FTV. Sort of to go back to that is we're gonna have documentaries. There's some discussion with a couple other people about the Afghan Chronicles or whatever, where you do some in-person interviews and talk about that war, and just have these like documentaries and content creators and get shows out and ads. And the thing is like I think we're very good. We've done very well at raising money for people in need. That support fund, we're going to continue to promote that and grow that the best that we can. And just so people know, like, nothing comes to us. In fact, the organization owes me probably over $10,000 because I've been paying the bills off my credit card. But nothing comes to us. There's no salaries or anything like that. So we just try to help people in need. So I think we'll be good at raising money. That support fund, hopefully we can get, the goal is to get 10,000 Canadians giving $5 a month. And then it's a form of monetary populism. You get an encrypted ballot sent to you. And we have 3 initiatives per month, which you vote where you'd like to see the money go. And then you have the option to send 10% of the money raised to a veterans organization, not V4F. So we've helped the guys at Veterans and Everyday Heroes. We've helped the guys at Operation Pegasus Foundation. I think this month it was Homes for Heroes, which we are going to send some money to. And then next month, there's a really good vet named Pat Gordon out in New Brunswick who does a charity called Operation Feed. So they're feeding people in need. So we're going to send some money there. So there's all sorts of good stuff where we can get the money in. And it's not being skimmed. Like I said, it's not going to in the government or, there's not some like suit who's like skimming off the top for a salary, none of that. So we're just going to try and continue to raise money for people. And I think we're actually going to rename the store to the Freedom Support Shop, I think, or something like that. I think our boy Ollie just came up with a name for that. And we're actually taking some more merchandise from defunct companies like Canadian Frontline Nurses, who are unfortunately shutting down, and we're going to try and sell their merchandise and continue to raise money and support people. But again, this is what I forgot to add is like this is a ground up thing. So it's like what the membership do. It's not like a top down thing, just like V4FTV. It's not a top down thing. It's like, what do we want? How do we get the message out? And then we keep working towards that.
Yep, absolutely. And speaking of, you know, veterans issues, right? Service dogs, man. So that is my boy Panzer. He's going to be on the show periodically whenever a truck drives by, or one of my I'm a cat rancher right now. I have 7 barn cats, so they all come by the windows. So as I do these shows, there's going to be a cat popping up or a truck driving by, and you're going to hear him bark. So that's Panzer. And yeah, so another initiative that we have had in the past is service dogs, trying to get service dogs squared away for veterans. And there's another thing that has been forgotten about, but it is still going on in the legal process, which is the Methlequin lawsuit. Not to mention the 5F stuff that's going on. There are so many things going on right now. I think it's difficult for people to keep track, right? There are 24 to 30 specific topics, and we can only do so much. And you made a great point, man. Like, we're all volunteers. And I want to personally tip my hat off to you, brother Drew, because you have been doing this on your own for a very long time. And so mad respect to you and everything that you have been doing, because it's actually quite inspirational. You and I had our disagreements, but at the end of the day, I'm like, this guy's fucking solid and this guy's squared away. So anybody who doubts that, you can come and knock on my door and we'll have a chat, or you can come on the show. But this is real shit. This is what people need to start realizing, is that people from the ground up can affect change. This is the way forward, man. Anybody feeling that floating anxiety right now, it's like, okay, well, how are you? What are you doing? Are you doing something about it? And if you don't know how to do that, there are people who are doing stuff that need help. So it's just win-win, man, across the board. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Thanks, because it's like a thankless job for all the stuff I do and all the people I talk to, and you know, like even on our brag sheet, like we follow the ethos of the quiet professional, and then you know we do something, and then we get all these people attack us. Oh, what has V4F ever done? They haven't done anything. It's like, okay, well, you're going to see our brag sheet. And I guarantee you, with the exception of, you know, actually, I don't even think there's been an organization who's raised as much money as us. Maybe JCCF Democracy Fund, maybe, but I don't know, because I don't think they publish their books. It's like, we've done a lot, but there's only so much we can do. Like Alex said, we're volunteers, you know. But even like little things like that, you know, we helped those air cadets. We gave them a bunch of stuff. We hung out with them. Alex, you wrote them that great letter. And, you know, we're not going to just sit idly by and let children of this country be cast aside. This happened with that teacher out in Nova Scotia, where this poor kid, kid who has, what's it called? Autism, and he didn't get the vaccine, and the teacher made him stand up and caused this kid to be bullied all year. And then we're like, nope, not going to happen. We are we sent up, I think Scotty McPherson and Jeff and a couple other guys went up and spent some time, took them out for dinner. I gave them some merchandise and made them feel good. We're just not going to sit idly by and let these people be discriminated against or told that they're bad citizens. Like, F that. Like, it's just not going to happen. Not at least while I'm at the helm here. So we'll try and support people the best they can. They're not going to be cast aside. Like, so many people I've talked to, and including guys in our organization who said, look, you know, V4F, like or the trucker convoy saved their lives. They were cast away from society, drinking themselves to death on the couch. And now they've been sort of revitalized. They have an organization they can do. They're not alone. That's great. That's all I need to hear. I can think of 2 guys off the top of my head who've talked to me about that privately. We had another guy Shout out. I hope he's watching this. He had one of our guys just overcome cancer in Central there. Young guy, solid dude, one of our good sort of Central members. And I remember he sent me a text. He goes, if it wasn't for V4F, he would have left Canada with his family. Right. So it's great. You let people know they're not alone, build community, network, and work collectively towards common goals. That's what we're going to do. And like my community group that I started in my county, Haliburton County, it's done very well. And if we can get more guys and gals doing that across the country and building these groups, then the better off we'll be.
So what would your message be to veterans or patriotic citizens who are like, you know what, like they're thinking about moving the country, or they're like, it's done, it's game over, you know what I mean? So let's get the fuck out of here. What message do you have for them?
Like, look, it's we know what's happening. We know what the globalists want to do, and they implement their global enslavement plan. Is you can run to another country, but it's eventually going to get there anyways. So we are in a country with a ton of resources, ton of fresh water, ton of gas and oil. We're in a really good position to weather the storm here in terms of resources, in terms of land mass and that sort of thing. There's a lot of Canadians who are awake now, not in the cities. Okay, that's what we tell people: get out of the cities, get your gun license. You want to move into rural areas and find your friends. But, you know, I'm not going anywhere. This is like, you know, Stronghold Canada. This is where I'll make my stand. I'll try and live as free as I can, as long as I can. Everyone's got a different line in the sand. You're not alone. There's lots of people who are awake. But if you feel like we had some of our members, they went down to not Ecuador, maybe it was Ecuador, I can't remember. But we have them on our list of members who like left the organization. And the one guy was like, "Yep, I think his last name was, or his first name was Steve." And he's like, "Yep, I can't live here anymore." And he's taken his family and he's in wherever. We got another guy in Japan who did the same thing. He went with his wife to Japan. So people are leaving, but it's eventually going to get there anyways. So I'd rather make the stand here in Canada because we're so rich in natural resources than some other country. That's just me personally. But I don't like people. I don't think a lot of people understand how far they're willing to go to implement this plan. Like, don't underestimate these people. I see people like, "Oh yeah, we're winning" or whatever. I'm not as optimistic right now with what's happening, but it's not going to mean I'm going to give up and stop fighting, right? And you know, we have guys like, "Oh yeah, you know, I'm so tough and I'll stand up and against the government," whatever. It's like, I don't know. I've seen people starving to death with my own eyes. Okay. I've seen it in when we were in Mumbai in India. There, I've seen people dying from starvation, and how they can get people to comply is by giving them some food, right? So you see all this stuff that they're talking about. Oh, all these left-wing lunatics. Oh, like grocers are making record profits, and they're calling for standardization of food prices and that sort of thing. It's just another step towards communism, unfortunately. So that's really why we're pushing the whole food security thing, is because it's like our boy Jake said, or like Sun Tzu said, is you need to put yourself in an unassailable position. So we know they're using food as a weapon. You need to take that weapon out of their hands and put it in your hands so they can't use that against you. And then you need to get involved locally, municipally, get on school boards, start paying attention to bylaws and stuff that they're trying to shove through the municipalities, because they've been doing this for years and no one pays attention. You may get like one or two people who, "Oh yeah, I attend the meetings." If you like, you can sit online and talk and complain and that sort of thing. Start checking what your local municipalities are doing. And now that people are doing that, you can see they're getting upset and they're like turning people's mics off because, oh no, like these swamp donkeys who are in these municipal positions are like, "Oh no, we can't just shove through whatever we want anymore," because the people are starting to pay attention. You need to pay attention to that stuff and what's going on. And then eventually, if you become like a champion in your local community, you can then run for office. in 3 years. Ontario, it's 3 years till the next municipal elections. Start becoming champions your community, start getting people together. And if you form these community groups, again, you're a voting base. And you can either vote your own people in, or you can grill whoever's running and say, I want you to focus on this, this, this. And then you tell your membership, and then you can start having some sway locally. So that's sort of the long game and the plan. And this is what we say. So our two, we've said localism defeats globalism, which is our sort of 1 point of strategic level guidance. But the other one is local change will have national impact. So if you get enough local change, that will have national impact. You look at what's happening in politics right now, and I know Tim Pool always says it, but he's 100% accurate, is politics is downstream of culture. So if we change the culture of our country and what things that we want to focus on, that will change politics.
Yep, dude, 100%. I can't find the lie in any of that in that statement, brother. Yeah, so let's my thoughts on that are, I'm going to echo it, but essentially it's I went and fought 6,000 kilometers across the globe to fight people that didn't know me. I didn't know them. Why would I run away from this land that I was born in, and my family was born in, and the people around me here are beautiful. And so there needs to be a point where it's like there is nowhere else to go. Like this is my home, and that's that. And that's the point of patriotism. You are fiercely devoted to the care and the direction of your nation. And so this nationalist idea of like Canada is brand new, it's young, and a lot of people get fired up about the idea, but it's like we are brand new. We're still a baby country, I said on the Schmidt podcast, we are the redcoats that lost in the 1776 revolution. Our flag is how old? It's 1968 was when it was brought into inception. So like I see all of this strife as having massive potential for the actual for the birth of this new nation. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we need patriots to stick around. We need patriots to stand up and do what's right, man. So I'm cool with that.
Yeah, and just show some leadership, right? Like people, they just need a bit of guidance, a bit of leadership. You can step up in your community. And this is what I said. Like when I first started my group, people were like, oh, talk to me about the shots and this. And I was like, look, we got to find common ground. We're not going to start with that stuff. We're going to focus on food security and community building. That's it. If we want to have sidebar conversations about the more controversial issues, we can at a later date. So getting people together, and then also realizing that ego is the enemy. So that's a lot of the stuff that I see in the so-called freedom movement there. There's a lot of ego, a lot of infighting. People can't put things aside or that. It's like you got to read this book by Pete Blaber. He's ex-Delta guy, called The Mission, the Men, and Me. Very good. It's like one of my favorite books. I have the hard copy and I have the audio book there, and it's great. It really sort of drills down onto exactly what the book is, the mission. So completing the mission, taking care of the men, and taking care of yourself. Taking care of yourself last. And this another thing is that I learned this from, so I've done a fair bit of work with guys at the Hill or JTF2 in terms of they train our maritime TAC operators course, and they're heavily involved with boarding party training and that sort of thing. But I learned a lot from those guys, right? Like I would listen to what those guys said, and they're like, at their unit, they were saying that there's something called a technique called spear, which basically is like a reaction to if you're getting attacked. And so you throw your hands up and you have your fingers out. And if you do that, people can't grab you and move you as much as you can if you have your fist closed. That was something that was created by like a new member of the unit, or brought up the new member of the unit. They listened to that, they trialed that, and then they made that their TTP or SOP, for their unit. So what I'm getting at is from that, story is like, listen to people. Don't just say it's my way or the highway. Listen to people who are in your groups or whatever, and see if what they saying makes sense or if there's any validity to it, and then don't feel like you can't implement that idea or that thing because it's not yours. And too many people do that. Oh, I didn't come up with it, so I don't. It's going to shit all over it. Like, no, that's not what you want to do. But also, those people, if you decide not to adopt that idea, they just have to accept that as well. So, have productive discussions. But you can do Zooms and things till the cows come home. Another thing I learned from those guys was don't talk, do. So you can talk about it, but you actually have to get out there and do stuff and try stuff and get out there and work and put the work in.
Verba is there for a reason, man. Deeds, not words. That's coffee time. Sit down, talk. Absolutely. Drew, you're back?
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, nice. You have Starlink as well. I have Starlink is good and sometimes not so good,
Yeah, we got redundancies up here. We got Starlink and then we got Bell as well. So we got the Bell wireless. So yeah, it's usually pretty good, but cuts out once in a while, definitely. So I didn't hear what you said. You cut out. Or I cut out.
Geez, I don't even remember. But essentially, I agree with what you said.
Okay.
Ego is a massive. It destroys communication. It doesn't allow you to actually go outside and explore ideas beyond what you're comfortable with. So that is and you need those tools in order to build community. You can't build community unless you're willing to listen to other people.
Right. And that's the thing. So when we do battle planning, like as a naval warfare officer, it's pumped into your head that you're so important. It's all top down. You're going to be an admiral, and like you're sitting there with your sword on the bridge, and there's like just a bunch of nonsense. And then when I started working with the soft guys, then they talked to me about the estimate and actually. Sorry, they got cut out again. Sorry, cut out again for a sec. But the ground up planning.
Yeah.
You get buy-in from your team. So instead of you coming up with a plan, planning in isolation, and pushing it down to everyone and say, okay, go execute this, everyone on the team works and builds that plan so they have buy-in, they know what it is, they feel like they're contributing, the team's super cohesive, and then you have better chance at executing and being successful in the mission. So that's another thing I learned from those guys.
As much as I hated the estimate on my 6.3s, 6Bs, it was actually the most, like, I learned the most from it, because you're taking 10 hours to smash down a 30-second sentence in order to get 30 alpha males on board with the task. And that's how you boil it down, man. It's very slick. I like it.
Yeah, and one other thing that I say is, like I said earlier, our organization gets attacked all the time by people from the left, people from the right. Like, I've had guys make shows, YouTube channels about myself and James Top calling us government assets, like completely just unhinged nonsense. But all that stuff is just noise. All it is noise. It's like when you argue, and I'm guilty of it a little bit, but when you argue, when you get these people who are completely brainwashed, like these left-wing people who've been subverted and don't know what the truth is, it's a waste of time engaging with those people. You're not going to win them over, whatever, and it's just noise. So everyone's arguing back and forth in social media. Just don't waste your time with that. Like, focus on what matters. Focus on those goalposts or those tasks that are going to shift the goalpost to your favor, and do that. And like, there's so much arguing and bickering and stuff online. Holy, I don't know how people deal with it. It's just such a waste of time.
Well, that's part of the 5G warfare that we're in, right? That's the information saturation, and it gets you distracted into things that actually benefit you. You're not getting up earlier, or unless you're doing all those things where you're getting up early, you're doing PT, you're eating well, blah blah blah, and then you have time for that. Okay, cool, Roger that. But if you don't, you're doing it wrong. Same with protesting. If you're protesting right now and you don't know where your meal is coming from tomorrow, you're doing it wrong. So this is the initiative that we're trying to start. So it's fucking bang on. You're 100%.
Yeah, and that's one of our sort of main lines of effort is health and wellness. So like for my show, the weekly sit rep, Young and Sunday afternoons on this whiteboard. Yeah, on this whiteboard, you're going to have a number. That number will be my personal weight. I am out of shape and have been for a couple of years. Every week, you're going to see that number go down and go down and go down. And it's like David Goggins said, like the accountability mirror. It's going to, for me personally, it's going to be the accountability stream. So whenever I'm streaming or the content, I'll be like, yeah, there's the new number. I've lost however many pounds, whatever, because we've learned from people that we've talked to and everything is like, look, the healthcare system is failing. The justice system is failing us. Is from that, you need to not get yourself in the justice system, right? Do not, like, it's crazy how much money, I don't even want to talk about the money for lawyers and everything we've raised, but also stay out of the healthcare system. And if you can focus on your health and you can get healthy and eat right and go out for hikes, like our group, hopefully what we're going to do in the winter here is we're going to have weekly hikes on Saturday morning. Everyone from our group, okay, each person's going to take a new thing. We're going to go on a 2-hour hike in this area, plan it all out. And that's what we're going to do. So if you're healthy and you stay out of the health system, you're going to be better off.
Yep.
Right. So stay out of the legal system. I don't even want to call it, like, it's not even just like, it's just a joke what's happening with all this, but stay out of that, stay out of the healthcare system because it's failing. And then that's where these groups, you can get together and do stuff and get outside and be active and, just do fitness stuff and that sort of thing. So like our perfect example. So our group is going to be renting the local school for an evening to do like sports and basketball and badminton or whatever it is. And it's like $50 for the evening. So how hard is that? You just go, okay, well, each person pays $5 and you can rent out and you can go play sports and anything. So we need to get back face to face, health and fitness, and work on that stuff. Stay out of that system. Like we got shared something today in our chat there by one of our members, Tracy, and it was like a poster for MAID, right? Remember, it was all these old people and stuff like that. It's like, oh my gosh, like they're really pushing this stuff. So, get healthy so you can live out your years. And the last thing I'm going to be doing is letting the government kill me. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, I mean, we can get into that. That'll be a topic for another show, 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's like, man, there's just so much to talk about. But in essence, I'm digging what we're doing, man. So this has been amazing. Final thoughts, floor is yours. Saved rounds about what's going forward and anything that we discussed or not.
Yeah. So one thing is there's been so much said and made up about our organization and spread around, and people think it's like, unless it comes from me or Alex or a handful of other people who speak on behalf of the organization, it might not be true. Okay, so check in with us before you do that, because we get stuff made up about us all the time. And the other thing is, people are getting demoralized. They go black pilled, they go white pilled, and everything. You just have to ask yourself this question, okay? Is personal liberties and freedom, is it worth the fight? You got to ask yourself, is it worth the fight? And if it is, you got to keep fighting. If it's not, and you want to bend the knee, then so be it. That's your decision. So you need to realize that it is a fight. We do have a long way to go. Unfortunately, I think things are going to get worse before they get better, but we need to persevere and get through this because the future of our country depends on it. So keep fighting, keep doing what you're doing. And we're excited to have V4FTV go next year. And hopefully we'll really build up a good audience and put out some good content that will sort of help keep you guys white-pilled and positive and keep you in the fight.
Awesome. Yeah, well said, man. And on that note, we're looking at launching everything in a staggered formation in the new year, right? January. So even myself, this one was just to launch that. to get everybody on board with what it is that we're doing to launch my brand new thing. I'm starting from scratch. Going to take some well-deserved time with family and friends over this Christmas. And then in 2024, we're going to get after it hard. Cool. Okay, awesome. Right on, man. Drew, brother, thank you. Stick around, and I'll just do a quick outro, and we'll talk backstage. And thank you so much, man, for coming on. Love you, brother. Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, man. Shimo. Well, there you go, people. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I apologize if the intro at the beginning was messed up. I don't know if it is. I'll have to come back and check it out. And hopefully the outro is not going to be messed up. I closed all my windows. I got so much crap going on. I'm back in the saddle, so it's going to take a little bit of dusting off. But I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you all look forward to seeing what we got going on with V4FTV and all of the V4F members and Patriots alike. Everyone, I want to thank you for tuning in, and we love you all very much. And yeah, that's that. So thank you very much, and Merry Christmas, and we'll see you guys in the new year. Peace. Oh, see? Told you. Okay, now, peace.
I'm a cowboy.
That is good. Just go ahead.